This is
Peace, peace. This is Sunez Law.
Peace.
Illustrated Low. Gotta give a shout out to my low life brothers and sisters, and the nation of gods and earths. You know, I alluded in the beginning with a build on today's mathematics about how important the knowledge itself is to hip hop culture, its ideas, its insights, and even its way from the square that Kool Herc, from the gods guarding Kool Herc speakers. You know what I mean? I remember one time teaching my class at a law school in Mecca, and Kool Herc just walks in. And he starts educating the brothers about how the gods was always the one that protected the speakers and stuff. And the way they did it was they stood on the square. You know what I mean? And that's really what influenced the b-boys to stand on their square and just be in that b-boy pose. You know what I mean? And that's just one of the early roots of it. But it's the ideas, the insight, you know, and it's something different than the massive influence than actually being in it. And it comes out in this album, Return of the God MC. We have our guest here, Kasim Allah. Kasim, there's so much that you did, so much that you went through, but so much incredible art, and it's such a very, it's such a varied catalog that I asked you to go through it, and it's not just for the hells, but how it came out right.
Indeed.
You know,
Indeed.
And when now you came out with Living Mathematics, and we'll speed up because we got to talk about this Return of the God MC album. Living Mathematics came out. I reviewed it. And I thought it was one of those things where, like, you know, where Michael Jordan scores 28, and you're like, yo, he's almost there. You know what I mean? He scored 28, though, but he wasn't getting that turnaround jumper just the way he wanted it to. And I had, issues with, like, certain of the beats, the mastering, the sound. And, like I was talking about off air, I was worried about hearing it because I was like, yo, the God has to show and prove. And he did, you know what I mean?
Peace.
And he did. And, out of the albums I've heard this year, such a natural diversity. Police Brutality with the Eric Garner song.
Yes, sir.
The Revolution Anthem, Fight Back. If you can't get your pull-ups in with that song, you're not really, you're not built for the gym. You better get some steroids. That up-tempo, inspirational, bop song, like really that Friday night shit, that Fool's Paradise. You know what I mean? The Relationship Is Gone, the I'm Alright, the real insightful song, where Brothers Returned, the Who's There. That general idea and the general idea of the knowledge of self. That there's so many great MCs and so many brothers that I consider brothers that I build with in this decade, which I call the invisible renaissance, because so much is unseen. But it's a renaissance from those dark ages of the 2000s. And brothers are influenced by the knowledge, and they can see where we're going with it. But there's a difference between knowing this knowledge of self. There's a difference between going to those teachers, like when Kasim Allah mentions building with Firstborn Prince. That's not easy.
That's right.
You could ask a question. See, we say there are no stupid questions, but if you asked a question that he thought you should know, you was getting bombed.
You're getting it.
You was getting it. So, when he says, late night session with Firstborn Prince, be like, listen to this. It's nothing. No, that's
something.
Really going through it, because these guys that taught us, my enlightenment, peace to knowledge me, Allah, you had to go through it. And if you answered the question, they had another question for you to do, for you to live.
That's right.
Oh, you know about this?
That's
then
right.
Go make that.
That's right.
And this is some of the things like that in the album. And, was it a conscious effort to make an album this diverse in subject matter, or was it very organic? Like going to the studio, today I gotta talk about the brothers that's passed, that return to the essence, or today I gotta, I'm tired of these fake jive percenters. I'm gonna do Save It. You know what I mean?
God,
How was this? How did the album evolve?
It was very organic. It came over time. Like with me, I usually come up with like 3 strong joints, per group of songs, like joints that move me. Then I'm like, oh wow. And when I grab those 3, then I see there's a project being born out of that now. You know what I mean? Because you can go in the booth and make a joint, the joint is fire, but what congruency does it have to anything else? What relationship does it have? And then the next joint next joint, oh, that sounds like, on that caliber. Let them 2 sit, and boom, here we go. All right, this is what I think I want to do, right? Like this song, this album had about 4 or 5 songs done. And then Return of the God MC, that song was done. And while I'm listening to the body of works, I'm like, yo, that's what this should be called. You know, a lot of questions came, you know what I'm saying, and disagreements with the Return of the God MC. That's Rakim's title. I'm like, true indeed, Rakim's my favorite MC. You know what I mean? He's my favorite MC, soloist. You know what I mean? So, you know, what people don't understand is Allah is one. And if you're living out this science, there's no difference in this brother than that brother. Except I may know something you don't know. You may know something that I don't know. When we're in the cipher together, I said it because the I is that third eye, the mind, which is us.
You know,
understand what I'm saying,
I've heard that, and I got to give a shout-out piece to Inf Mega, who does the Allah School in Mecca YouTube page. He shares a lot of my class sessions and little tidbits and stuff, and it's really been useful to a lot of people. And there are some really great, you shouldn't just listen to this interview, go listen to those interviews with Kasim Allah. And you know, I do have something to say about the Return of the God MC, the concept of the title. A lot of people have to know what's validated. In this hip hop stuff, you have to know what's validated. And when it connects to other things beyond it, with like the knowledge of self and the gods and the earths, then people that say that wouldn't say some dumb shit.
Exactly.
Because they know that's the God. Like, when I saw Return of the God MC, I was like, that's the God. Yeah, you're back.
I'm going to tell you straight up. I didn't give myself that title. 5%ers gave me that title. You notice I didn't say NGE or the gods. I wanted to be understood that it was the 5% nation that sparked me when I was young. It was 5%ers that kept calling me the God MC. For whatever reasons they felt about God MCs at that time. But they gave that to me because that's not something that I would call myself. When my favorite MC's title was the God MC. So I was honored and blessed with that, and that's because I build and I teach and I do my duty. I teach civilization. I teach who is a savage civilization, righteousness, the knowledge of himself, the science of everything in life, love, peace, and happiness. That's what I'm here for. I teach the babies in jail. I teach in shelters. I teach in middle schools. I'll run up on your drug dealers on the block and ask them why they love the devil. There's no discernment with me. Because it's our people, they need this. This is what I do. Period. I've taught some of my friends' parents. Understand what this is. And that only comes when you live in this science and you bearing the fruit of that labor. I've born life alive and you can see it, walk and talk about it. It's not about, you know, being the hardest 5% of the hardest God, the swiftest, none of that. It's not, is it real with you? And can you synthesize it so that a baby can understand and live it out?
Indeed, God, indeed. And I appreciate that answer. You know, again, a lot of the theme is the idea of tell me in your own understanding, what is the difference between God on the mic and a person that is familiar with our knowledge of self?
Okay. You know how you get outside and you like you and your friends, let's keep it real simple. Like you and your friends on the basketball court or the football field. And you know, some of y'all shooting shots and what have you and you hitting, but you got one dude that just never miss like that 3-pointer, or you hate when he's on the foul line because, you know, or you playing 21 and wherever he's at and you got to follow behind him and shoot, he's hitting, you know what I mean? And he could dunk. And his handle is crazy, and his defense is crazy, and you just know that he's gonna go pro. That's what it's like when you see an MC who is a fan of the gods, you know what I'm saying, who will say peace, and sometimes give you a peace sign with an open sign to you, tell him that that's victory, and then he'll try to draw that up, but he'll throw it up again with it open again. You know, he'll stand on his b-boy stance, you'll tell him that's a square, you can give him the signs behind the square, and he'll say that's cool, you know. But the God MC is going to make sure that every line that he drops means something to you, that it takes you from one level to another. He's going to lead you somewhere which we call in the right direction, because so much leads our babies in the wrong direction. It is our purpose on the mic to teach. You understand? Yeah, I want you to have a good time. I want you to shake your booty, you know what I'm saying? That's why we did Fool's Paradise. I take you back to the block parties, just to show y'all, you know, the depth and how long that hip-hop has been me and I've been hip-hop, you know?
I think one of the songs that really has that, what I wrote, Living in the Knowledge of Self. Tell me about that song, The Time, because I really thought that one was really,
That's it.
that one really detailed.
God, the first time I went to a law school, this is 2 in the morning. We on Horton and Brook, we're jumping in Knowledge's car, He said, you want to go to a law school, God? I've never been there. I want to go to law school. So let's go, God. So me, Infinite, Knowledge, and Shaquan, we went to a law school. And it's 2:15, 2:30 by the time we get there. We knock on the door, and Firstborn Prince opened up the door looking at us like we was crazy. He said, peace. We said, peace, God. And he saw that we was young gods. You know what I mean? Infinite was Knowledge Equality, which is 16. I was 21 years old at that time. You know what I mean? And I wanted to see a law school, you know? And that's exactly what we said. Well, we're here because I've never been to a law school, and Kasim wanted to come to a law school. Prince said, well, this is your school. Come in. And we were greeted with Prince and 2 pit bulls. And the pit bulls was real peace. It was cool.
Yeah.
And God sat us down and built with us till about the freedom hour in the morning, about 4 in the morning, you know. And we found out that he did some time up north with a friend of my parents, you know, New York Freddie. When he found out we was from Nerd Show, he said, you know New York Freddie? I said, of course, right? The motorcycles, big mustache. Yeah, I was locked up with him. That's my father's people. So that just opened the door. Then he started questioning us. And, you know, he asked me mathematics and things of that nature, and I was answering him. And he saw that I was trolling him about it. And I get quiet when he started building because I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I kept going back to see him. Kept going to see him. With Prince, it was, you know, give him a little something, you know what I'm saying, to, you know, some food. And, you know, Prince would go all day with you. Sometimes he'd take you up on the roof with him, you know what I mean? Or he'll be in his wheelchair and you pushing him around, and he's telling you stories and stories and stories. And within the stories is mathematics all day long. And then when he take you through the lessons, he was so sharp. And we acknowledge 120 lessons. We have his copies of 120 lessons.
And I just gotta say, remembered in perfection to Firstborn Prince Allah.
And peace to Master Saquon, because it was Firstborn Prince who told Master Saquon, them young gods is all right. Go with them. So he would come up to Never Shell with us, or now roll with us. And, you know, Master Saquon then was in his maybe young understanding cyphers, his young 30s. You know what I mean? He hair braided up, beard braided down, you know what I mean? Walking around with staffs, and people looking at him like, who is he? Peace.
That's peace, God. Well, let's talk about, before we go to break, and let's talk about some of the songs on the album. Just give me some ideas about it, where you feel, and I'll just throw you a quick question about them. You tell me where you're at with it mentally after this song. The first one, Eric Garner. All this stuff is happening. Where are you mentally at now? Like, let's say if you had to remix this song, where are you at now with that?
I wouldn't touch it. It's gonna stay just like it is, because that's exactly what happened. That's how I felt. You know what I mean? That's what it did to me. You know, if you listen to that song, you hear that man telling you can't breathe. I wouldn't touch it, because that man is being quoted. You hear him. You hear his energy, his last words.
That's peace. That's peace, and it still is relevant. You know what I mean?
That's a piece of me leaving the planet.
What's wild is that only more instances have happened since then.
Indeed.
You know?
Indeed.
And
hence Fight Back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hence Fight Back. It's like we're rolling right through the songs. You know what I mean?
Yes,
sir. I can't think of one of them. This is one of the most anthemic songs that I've heard, you know, this year. You know what I mean? And I love it, though. I'm not even going to say anything about it until I build with it, though. But I had to thank on air for you for the song, you know, the song Anytime. You know what I mean?
Peace, God. Yes, sir.
With the, you know, the love that you showed in that song to Old Earth, and, you know, Remember the Perfection, My Old Earth, who passed away a month ago. That was a really hard-hitting song and stuff. And it's the process of life and death was beautiful in that song, you know, and the next generation, you know, and that carryover. You know, I just think that a lot of the songs here are so deeper the more that you look into them. And I think
it's my life, God. You got to give of yourself. When you're talking to the people, if you're the true and living, then what truth are you living and what are you giving to the people? You know what I mean? That song is about my old earth leaving here, my black woman taking care of me during that time, and 3 months after my mother left, my child being born, the pain I had to
that's
go
amazing,
through.
God.
Like the grandmother that he missed, and she was only 56 when she left here.
Wow.
So, you know, it's so much joy, pain, love, heartache, and everything wrapped up in that I couldn't even keep it inside. And I had to dedicate that to them, not just her, but to them, the 3 of them, because, you know, my purpose on this planet is wrapped up. You know what I mean?
That's peace, God. That's peace, God. Again, this album is incredible. Musically, it has a familiarity with samples, and a lot of times though, I hear drums on samples I know in a different way. You know what I mean? Like Return of the God MC is a great example. You know what I mean?
Peace.
But for the listener, this is an album worth checking. It's on Google Play, it's on iTunes, it's on Bandcamp. The God is on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and the God will build with you. If you want to understand some of the lyrics, if you want to ask him directly. The God is very reachable, and the God is very peace, though. You know what I mean? This is music for the people, and the people need to speak to him. You know, and I will say this as a lasting note. You know, again, this whole theme is really the 5% and how our albums now have been very much influenced this decade by our knowledge. But this is one of the few albums that is overtly outright, I'm God, and I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about other people not relating to it.
Right.
I'm not trying to be the every spirituality man.
Thank you for saying
You know?
that, God. Like,
and that's what the difference is. You know, God, no one takes a stand on it. The only one that does this.
This is what we do.
Yeah, the only one that does this consistently has been Sadat X with his solo albums.
Peace.
And other than him, there's only a few that are so overtly outright with it that we don't know about this. And I find it refreshing, God. I find it refreshing. And I'm willing that the listener will too, and really understand a little bit more of the depth of what we deal with, you know. And because
we're worried about being seen as odd, and job pretenders is song.
Absolutely.
That's for real, like,
you know.
yourself.
And on that note, though, let's go back to a lot of music from Toshi, and we'll come back and hear some. We hear the God MC.
Let's get it. You be asking forever questions, God.
You're now tuned in to DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio Show, where underground lives.
This is the one I was thinking about. Cause I was like, when I was like, oh man, heard it?
That's the